that's my mindset with this. I'm only using colors that I like, because why should I use colors that I don't like? Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristen, and DoSo Knits is my little corner of the internet where I share with you how knitting and other fiber crafts have woven into my life. I'm a knitter living in Denver, Colorado with my husband and our two animals, Sherlock and Ebony. Today's video is episode 82 of my podcast, where I share with you works in progress, finished objects, so essentially just what I've been working on since my last podcast episode. So just a little bit of admin here at the beginning is I am still hosting the Summertime Gifts Knit Along. This is going through the end of summer, which is September 22nd. So if you haven't checked that out, look up in the link above for the video where I chat all about it. And if you're participating and playing along, make sure you get your finished objects and bingo cards in by September 22nd, when I will pull our final participation and bingo winners. So you'll definitely want to check out that podcast episode, and I'll announce the winners in that one after the knit along is over. If you don't know, essentially we're just knitting gifts in the summer and playing bingo while we do it as well. It's not too late to join. You can retroactively look at any projects you've knit in the summer and feel free to submit those as a part of the knit along. You can share those on social media with the hashtag SummertimeGiftsCal. Feel free to tag me at DoSo Knits so I can see what you're working on. And yeah, thanks for participating in the knit along so far. And I can't wait to see what everyone submits for the end of the knit along. All in all, that's essentially all the admin I have here at the beginning. I did recently go to Wisconsin Sheep and Wool and visited family in Madison, Wisconsin. So I have another video all about my Wisconsin Sheep and Wool trip, what I bought at Wisconsin Sheep and Wool, all about the festival as well. So it might be before or after this video, but be sure to check it out. I really enjoyed sharing all the different things that I bought and what I think about that festival. It's my second time going to that festival and I really enjoy it, so hope you'll check that out as well. With all of that, I hope you have something to work on, something to drink. I am drinking some indigo punch tea out of my newest mug. I picked this up at Wisconsin Sheep and Wool. My tea is still very hot. This indigo punch tea is by Harney and Sons. I love it. It's a very sweet tea, but it's caffeine free. It really hits that sweet craving you might have. It's one of my favorites. So that's like all the admin. So we'll just go ahead and move right into finished objects and we'll chat about what I'm wearing today. So you may notice I am wearing my first finished object today. This is my Tolsta Tee by Rebecca Clow, the Crayabea. It is a DK weight raglan t-shirt essentially. I knit this in Knit Picks Cotton in the colorway Shoal. Overall, I used 256 grams or 5.12 skeins. So I just barely broke into that 5th skein, but I did do a little cropped body and it's just a nice little t-shirt. Overall, I knit this with a US 8 for the body and then a US 6 for the ribbing. And then when I was working flat for the short rows, I did go down to a US 7 just to tighten up my purl stitches a little bit, since they are a little bit looser than my knitting in the round. So I did do that to kind of even out all my tension. I did the size 5, which is about a 49-inch bust circumference, and I did D-cup bust darts. And so in this pattern, essentially the bust darts are incorporated as extra increase rows in the raglan, and then you have some decrease rows in the body. They are all vertical bust darts, so it's just increases and decreases, no short rows at the bust. I think it helps fit the garment a lot nicer. There's definitely no like lower in the back and higher in the front, so I think the bust darts were a good call. I do have a difference between my upper chest and my full bust, and so adding bust darts is something that I include in all my patterns. Yeah, I did mention in my last video where I wasn't 100% stoked about the collar. And so after that last episode, I did end up ripping out the collar and I redid it. I hadn't finished the sweater yet. I knew I didn't like the collar, so I figured, you know, I might as well, since I'm still working on it, just redo the collar. So what I ended up doing is I picked up the collar number of stitches that's recommended for my size. Technically, you're supposed to start with the collar and then knit down, but I cast on after the collar and then picked up to then knit the collar, which I like to do in instances like this where I want a little more control of how the neckline sits. So I picked up the number of stitches that I was supposed to cast on, and then I decreased to the smallest size. And then I think that did bring in the collar just a little bit. I wouldn't mind if it was in just a little bit more, but I think it's just a wide neckline in general. So I think I would probably need to cast on with a smaller number of stitches next time and then increase, maybe a rapid increase or a few rows of increases. I'm not exactly sure. I just think the way this collar is written, it is just more of a more oval, wide kind of neckline. And so I think that's something I'd either have to play with or find another pattern, maybe play with some different numbers. I do like how it's fitting. I just do see it as a little bit of a wider neckline. I just don't know if it would look a little nicer if it was in like a little bit more here and then down a little bit. Like I think that would be a little more flattering if it was a neckline closer to like that kind of style versus this really kind of wide, kind of just looks too big because it's not sitting like close to my neck. That's just my personal opinion. Maybe you don't think it looks too wide. That's just kind of how I think. I do really like the length of the armholes that I did and how the raglan fits. It's not as long as what's recommended in the pattern. I am short-waisted, so I don't typically knit patterns to the length that's always recommended. And then, yeah, I've worn this to work already once before. The Kotlin is a cotton and linen blend. It makes a really nice drapey fabric that I really like. It's definitely not too hot. The DK weight doesn't feel too heavy for like a... It's probably more of a spring fall kind of shirt. I don't know if I would wear this in like the super hot days of summer, but I do really like it. I think this color is very flattering and I'm happy to have knit this again. As I mentioned, there are some modifications that I maybe make the next time, but overall this was on my needles from May 28th through August 18th. So coming in a little under the 3-month mark, and that's nothing to do with the pattern. I just kind of put this to the side. It wasn't a main priority project. It was just something that I kept on the needles. I took it camping. Once I was on the body, I took it to the movies. So it was a really good project to kind of just have for when I needed stockinette in the round knitting. I don't know if I would knit another Tolsta again. I would in the sense that I like that it's a nice loose gauge. If I did, I would play with modifying this neckline to being a little bit tighter, but otherwise I could also look into other raglan patterns for t-shirts and play with that as well. But I would definitely use Kotlin again. I actually am using it in one of my works in progress today. I will just say one caveat about this yarn is it bleeds a lot. I soaked this shirt with color catchers in some water, and the color catchers were totally saturated. I used 2 color catchers. It was totally saturated and the water was still completely blue. So this yarn bleeds a lot. Definitely block it by itself if you ever use Kotlin. I actually had that yellow hat from my previous episode in the same bath as this, and so now it has a slightly blue tint because I should have blocked them separately and I didn't. So that is a word of warning that this yarn does bleed quite a lot. And I know it's not just this color, because the other project that I have started on, I blocked the swatch, laid it out to dry, and even that little bit of water also bled. So I think just with the cotton and linen, because they are such saturated colors, I think it's just gonna bleed. So just make sure you block it by itself. Even though it is a cotton and linen blend, I may not wash it in the washing machine quite yet, or if I do, I'm still gonna wash it by itself. So just keep that in mind. I'll probably just keep washing it by itself until I notice that there's not as much bleeding happening, and then this will be an easy one to throw into a normal wash cycle. So that's my first finished object, is my Tolsta Tee, which I'm very happy to have finished. Now, I do have a few other finished objects. It has been about, I believe, about a month since my last podcast, only because I did record before we went on vacation, and then just editing errors, and then I didn't have enough time to edit before we went on vacation, and now we're here and it's just easier to record than to edit that. And then anyway, the other finished objects that I have are some socks, and they're going to look very familiar. So these are my Woolens and Nosh Mine socks that I knit for myself. So I knit these with Woolens and Nosh Superwash Targhee in the colorway Mine, aka a girl makes off with a blueberry. They are a 90% Targhee, 10% nylon. They are a little bit of a thicker sock yarn, but I love this sock yarn, and it's a self-striping yarn. So I knit these with a 2x1 rib for myself, and then 8 rounds of a leg. I then did a shadow wrap heel, but with 4 rounds of flat knitting to make a mini gusset, which I then decreased out, and then I knit the sock to fit my foot. I used the contrast color that was provided for my cuff, and then knit the rest of the socks in the main color. As you can see, my socks do not match, and that is because when I started the second sock, in order to get them to match, I would have had to rip out essentially an entire color repeat, which I did not want to do. So I just made it so they did not match. I have worn these once, so they are a little not as perfect as they would be. They're a little worn, but I did wear them. I think I've maybe found the right height for my shorty socks when I do a short row heel, which is very exciting because I've been playing with that ratio a little bit. So as I mentioned, it's 10 rounds of cuff, 8 rounds of leg, and then 4 rounds of flat knitting before I do the heel. I do have quite a small foot. I do 56 stitches for myself, and I did a US 0 9-inch circular needle for these. So that's my first pair of socks. What I had done is I really liked this color. And this yarn was already caked up. And since I did shorty socks, I had a lot left over. So I actually cast on another pair of socks in the same colorway, but for my husband Shane. And I finished those on our trip as well. I took these with me to Wisconsin and worked on these. These are my plain knitting. They were out and about knitting. They were emergency room knitting because my husband broke his hand. So these came with me, and that's where I finished them. But these are his, and honestly, I think his look better than mine. So similar formula. I did a 1x1 rib for his. And then I did, let's see, I did 8 rounds of 1x1 rib, and then 12 rounds of leg. So essentially it's 20 rounds total before I started the heel. For his, I also did that mini heel flap to then decrease the stitches out, but I did his heel in the contrast color on both of these, and then picked up the main color after finishing the heel. I do think this looks a little more clean and put together compared to mine, where I did not change the color for the heel, and that's because I was being lazy. So his and mine. I think these just look a little cleaner. I mean, his also haven't been worn, so they are literally cleaner, but I do think I prefer this contrast heel, even on a shorty sock. I think it just pulls the heel and the cuff together nicely compared to this. Just think it doesn't look as clean, and yeah, just a personal opinion. I think these look really nice. Again, the colors didn't match. I just started the socks when there was a white stripe color change and they're one stripe off. But same, so 20 rounds, 8 of cuff, 12 of leg, mini heel flap, shadow wrap heel, knit to fit the foot. And that used up a good portion of my skein, if I'm being honest. For Shane, his are knit also on a US 0, but his are 60 stitches instead of 56 for mine. And then he has a longer foot. But overall, this is how much main color I have left total. I'm not sure how much this weighs. I will weigh it and then I'll probably pop it on the screen here. But this little ball is just the sections that I had to pull out to like get to the next color stripe when starting the second socks. So that's essentially this, and then these were the leftover of the 2 skeins because I caked them up and then split the cake in half. But I definitely could have done the heel in the contrast color for my socks because this is how much of my mini I have left. So I did both cuffs for both socks in this and then just his heels. I didn't do any toes, but there's still so much of this left. So future reference, I probably will just do heels in the contrast color that comes with the yarn. Happy with those. I took them, like I said, they were my out and about knitting. I took them to dinners. We went putt-putting and I worked on the socks while we were playing putt-putt, you know, when you're between turns. Took them to the emergency room, flew with them. I'm really liking having socks on the needles. It's just something easy that I don't have to think about and just easy stockinette knitting. So I do have another pair of socks that I have started, but those are all my knitting finished objects for today. I do have one spinning, mostly FO, that I would like to share with you today. And so I believe the last time I showed this, it was probably still a single. It's been on my wheel for quite a little while, but I finally got to plying this yarn together and I'm very happy with what I made. So these are, it was my May 2025 Woolens and Nosh Club. The colorway is Moonfire. And I started this June 26th. It is now September 14th. I mean, I plied up each of the singles and then they sat for a little while before I plied them together. But here's my yarn. So this is 100% Romney. I enjoyed spinning this. I thought it went really well. And I think I'm hitting closer to my goal yarn. I have not washed this yet. However, currently, and what I did is I split this in half and then I did 8 strips on one and 4 strips on another. I spun this on my Starling e-spinner. I have my notes of like what speed and everything I used. And right now, this is roughly 396 yards. And it's looking like it should be close to a fingering, so I'm thinking it might be a sport weight when it plumps up. But that yardage is the most yardage I've gotten out of something in a very long time. And I think what I've realized is I think I was over twisting a lot of my singles, so they were making a really, really dense yarn. And so I've really tried to focus on pre-drafting, like really spreading my fibers out, and then also not putting so much twist into my singles. And I think that's helping my yardage. And so this is a 2-ply I think it's going to be roughly a sport. I mean, at 396 yards, this is 100-ish grams, so it'd either be a really heavy fingering weight or hopefully it's a little bit of a sport weight. The red is not specifically my color, so I have no specific plans for this. I do think it'd be something cool to throw into like a grid gambit KAL, or even just like making a muscle burrow for Shane. That could work. I think he would like a red hat, and I think a muscle burrow would be a nice way to like try out my hand spun and really see how the colors are playing. So yeah, this is mostly done because I haven't washed it yet and gotten final measurements, but I will wash it after this, and then I will make my measurement card, and then they just go to live up here where I put all my stats on. And I do have all my hand spun in my Ravelry as well, with the fiber, my notes on my spinning, when I talked about it, etc. So I'm very happy for this. I want to get another project on my wheel. I haven't decided what I want to work on yet. I should just start something. Sometimes the prep is the hardest part for me, because you gotta figure out how you want to prep it. And then I really should try steaming the yarn or the fiber to like really plump it up, spread out the things. But then I have to figure out, how do I want to split it? What do I want to do? But I think I know what fiber I want to spin next. It's just a matter of getting some of the prep done. Those are all my finished objects that I have to share with you today, but I have quite a few works in progress. I have currently 3 garments, a blanket, and a sock to show you today. So the first garment I'd like to talk about is my weekend cami, which I'm knitting by Amy Sure. I shared this with you last time, and I've made decent progress on what I've done. So if you don't know, this is a tank top shirt. It's a tank top. It is knit in fingering weight yarn. I am using Nerd String, now Salty Blonde Fiber, colorway Seaside, and their superwash merino base. So there's no nylon in this. And I am alternating skeins to get the fit. I have finished all the shaping, and now we are on the body. And this is what it looks like. So this is where I was last time. And I figure what I can do is I'm gonna pop my bust form over here so we can chat about this sweater. All right, so this is my weekend cami so far. So this pattern does include bust darts. So you work on both of the back V-necks, knit down, and then we worked on both of these front V-necks and then joined together and then knit the fronts until we met at the armholes, and then I've been working in the round. These right here are for the A-line shaping of the body. So let me back up. So I did work the bust darts across the front. You do have more stitches on the front of this pattern than you do on the back, which I think is really, really smart. That just helps incorporate the breast tissue. I mean, you need more fabric up front than you do on the back because you have a flat back. And so what I did mention last time is I've started working size D through the bust because that better aligns with my breast or bust measurement. Then for the body, I was going to work size E, and I was going to do extra increases because there is slight A-line shaping, just to add like a little flare and to accommodate hips. And I was going to increase all the way to size E. I have, however, decided that I was just going to increase halfway between size D and size E, because based on how this is fitting right now, size E probably would have been too much ease at my belly. So I have finished my increases now, and I did six increase rounds every 6 rounds to get that size that I needed. And so now I'm just knitting in the round, helical knitting my 2 yarns. And I have this little stitch marker here where my helical knitting change is, because I always forget. If I don't have some sort of reminder, I'll just keep knitting stockinette. But right now it is just stockinette in the round until I finish this tank top. So this has been it's been sitting by my computer. It's what I pick up when I'm in a meeting because it's pretty mindless other than when I need to switch yarns, but I have that tactile stitch marker to kind of remind me, and I can look down very quickly, slip 3 stitches, and then keep going. So that is my tank top so far. It is knit on US 3s. I did a US 2 when I was knitting flat. The V-neck in the front is just a little deeper than the V-neck in the back, and I'm quite excited about this. Maybe we should do a quick try on, but let me go grab a different tank top. So I grabbed a tank top just so, you know, I'm not showing my belly to the internet. This is what it looks like. Nice V-neck. I think it's fitting really nicely. And you can tell here there's a good amount of ease already. Sorry, let me make sure my mouth is in the frame. There's a good amount of ease, so I didn't want to keep increasing, and so now it's just straight down. And I'll probably knit it similar to like the length of this tank top, because I'd like to be able to wear this like under cardigans or under a button up, just as like a base layer. I am wearing it over a tank top, which I wouldn't normally do, but you know, for recording purposes. And I think it's really cute. I think it's fitting really, really well. It feels like a really nice, basic tank top. And so I did mention last time that depending on how everything was working, I may or may not crack into my 3rd skein. But I looked at the pattern, and based on the yardage that Amy was recommending, I would need to crack into that 3rd skein. So I just went ahead and decided to go ahead and cake it up, and I'm just working helical knitting. I will obviously run out of this skein before this one, and if I do, then I'll just continue knitting in the round. We'll end up seeing how much I end up using, but I would at this point definitely make this tank top again. I think it would be a good one to kind of have in my mind if I'm ever out shopping or need souvenir shopping. I could just grab a few skeins of fingering weight yarn, and that could be my souvenir yarn. I'm really happy with like the slight pooling and variation of this garment. I think it's really cute. I wanted something that would show off the really delicate speckling. This is called Seaside. It looks like little pieces of sea glass. I love it. So yeah, I've had this in my stash for quite a while, but I've been waiting for just like the perfect project to come along to work for this. So that is my weekend cami. It's not at an interesting spot right now. Working the V-neck and everything was so fun. It flew, and I kind of mentioned where it was like you would like knit each triangle, a triangle, you want to go to the next part, okay, now do the bust increases, now do the bust shaping, now do the body decreases. So there was like always something that I was working toward that really kept me motivated, and now it's just stockinette in the round, which is great because I can just have it beside me. It's kind of not a super priority project because it isn't something that requires a ton of focus, so I do a lot of my focus projects at home. But this is a good one if I have a really like brain melting day or an evening where I really don't want to think about something. This is great to just have stockinette in the round, and it's great for meetings just to have. I can't really work on it in like a movie theater because of the helical knitting. I mean, maybe I could if we went to like the Alamo, because they have like little lights that you can see with, but I mean, it's working great as a just like general home project. So that is my first garment project that I wanted to chat with you about, and I have another one. So I'm just going to leave this tank top on because my next project is also at a point where I could try it on for you. So this is my clay tee by Ozetta. I believe this is the first time I'm sharing it with you, and I've made so much progress. So after I finished my Tolsta, I was looking for something to use up my cotton. I had another yarn weight. It was the colorway Coffee. It's this dark brown in cotton. And I just wanted to make another summer garment. Well, it's still a little hot here. It definitely doesn't cool down here as quickly as some other places. I think because we're just so close to the sun, I feel like Denver is always like a month behind when it comes to like seasons changing. I feel like we get snow a month behind. I feel like it gets cooler a month behind. I feel like it gets hotter here in the summer a month behind everyone else. I don't know what it is. I'm just gonna blame the altitude. So that being said, I just would have a lot of time still to wear another kind of t-shirt in the fall, and so I was just scrolling DK weight t-shirt patterns and I came across this clay tee by Ozetta and I just fell in love. I did keep looking on some other patterns, but this one hit my heart. So this is where I'm at. So this is a drop shoulder DK weight shirt. I do have my collar on Stitch Saver right now because I want to see how the collar is fitting, so that's why this cord is hanging down. I also have the body on a barber cord as well, so let's try this on. So this is my clay tee. It's really dark, so it does affect the lighting just a bit, but it is a stockinette and then garter stitch patterning. It is a drop shoulder, so you work the back with short rows to get a really cool raglan detail down the back. So you cast on at the back and then you work short rows to get this shoulder detail. So that kind of runs along the shoulders. Then you work down, working flat, come back, pick up the front necklines, work down your armholes, and then join in the round. So for my armholes, I actually did end up making them a little longer than what I should have. And so what I did last night is I actually came back, and there are so many ends right now, so ignore those. But I actually came back and I mattress stitched from here to here just to tighten up that armhole, and then I'm going to come back and pick up the armhole stitches. I'm currently working on adding my collar. It's supposed to have a stockinette rolled collar, but when I knit that last night and then tried it on, it was just kind of like standing up weird. It wasn't really rolling, I think, so I just wasn't super happy with it. So what I ended up doing is I've now gone back and I'm just doing garter rows. I've done 3. After just trying it on right now, I think I'm gonna add one more garter bump and then bind off. I think this is fitting a lot nicer. I did end up adding 2 extra increase rows on each side of the neckline. Because at first when I finished increasing and then you cast on across and I had knit a little bit, and when I was trying it on, the neck hole was like rubbing over my glasses. So I think it was just a little too shallow. So I added a few more rows there. I think it's fitting nicely. So yeah, I think I'm going to add one more garter bump just to bring it in just a smidge more. Then I'm going to go back, add my armholes here. And then we're playing yarn chicken a little bit with the body because I'm currently on my 5th skein of 8. And you can see when I was trying it on, it's still not long. So depending on how long, I'm going to see how far I can get with the yarn that I have. If I need to, I can order 2 more skeins of Cotton and Coffee from Knit Picks. It is an oversized shirt, so I mean, compared to like my Tolsta, which is less oversized, this is obviously going to need a little more yarn. This is also knit at a tighter gauge. I think it's 20 stitches an inch, and the Tolsta's 17 stitches over 4 inches, so this is 5 stitches an inch. So it's just a little tighter. I'm knitting it on size 5 needles, US 5 or 3.75, and I'm knitting the size 3XL, which is a 52-inch circumference. So that is my clay tee so far. It's just been so fun because the texture pattern is just really fun. So I do have my row counter just doing the repeat so I know if I'm on a knit or a purl row. I obviously had to change the repeat from when I was working flat to when I am now working in the round, but I feel like the pattern is written really well. One thing I really like about Ozetta's patterns is she mentions both row number and length. So my row gauge is very different versus my stitch gauge is the same. So when I was working things like the neckline, it said like, oh, this should be 2.5 stitches or 2.5 inches or something. And so then I could measure my stitch gauge to see, okay, am I at 2.5 inches? I'm doing less rows essentially. And maybe that played into why my neckline was a little snugger. Maybe I measured incorrectly. So it's just all good to know. I really prefer when patterns have a length measurement. Row measurement is fine, but I prefer a length. Just give me a length because then I can measure my own work to make sure it's gonna fit correctly. So I really like that Ozetta includes that in her patterns. So that's my clay tee. It's kind of been my focus. It's what I took with me on our trip. And I think it's just so cool. I think it'll be a really nice fall transition type piece. The only thing I'm worried about is yarn chicken. Okay. I have 2 more projects to show you. I'm not going to show you my high tide shell today. I'm still working on the body, and I believe I kind of talked about what my plan is to do about sizing in the last podcast episode, but if I'm misremembering from my misrecording, I'll mention it when I get there. So yeah, I'm still working on the body. I have a few more repeats to go before that is ready to split for sleeves, but I do want to quickly show you my current pair of socks. So after I finished Shane's pair of socks, I did cast on just another pair of socks to have. I had brought this skein of Regia Pairfect with me on our trip in case I did finish his socks and needed to start a second pair. So I did start these, and these are my socks that I worked on our flight home. So I'm doing these for Shane, 60 stitches, and I'm just following the pattern. So when I say I'm following the pattern, I mean I'm following the pattern of the yarn for the Pairfect. And let me show you where I'm at. So this is the sock so far. So with the Pairfect, you're supposed to knit your cuff until your patterning changes. You can see I did not knit my cuff that long. I didn't want to cuff this long. So I knit 2x1 rib for 17 rounds. I just did it till I thought it was a good length. And then I started working stockinette. And then you just continue working the sock until you come back to the big section of the main color. And it's nice because this little ball picture shows exactly what it looks like. So I could kind of look at the picture and know when. So I did a shadow wrap heel on these. I did not do the mini gusset. And now I'm just working the foot. So these are really nice because you basically just knit and it's like a self-striping where you can kind of play and be like, oh, this is fun. I just want to see what the yarn is going to do. So now it should repeat on the foot. And then with the Pairfects, you'll end up, I'll just keep ripping out the yarn. And there's this yellow string. And so when you cast on, you pull out the yellow string and you cut it, and then that's where you start. And so I'll do the same thing. Once I'm done with this sock, I'll pull out all the extra, get rid of the yellow string in the middle, and then I'll knit the second sock, and they'll both match, which is why the yarn is called a Pairfect. Pairfect. I love this yarn. I just thought this would be a good one to bring because it's already caked up. And so if I needed to start socks because I finished those other ones, I could. And I think the colors are so, so cool. I believe this colorway is called Fall Night. When I look up the color on the ball band, it says 406, but I believe it's Fall Night. And I picked this up when we were living in Germany. I would definitely pick up more. I love this yarn. It's just a woolly wool, 25% polyamide. So it's just a 75 merino or 75 wool, 25 nylon polyamide blend. And yeah, these are part of the Arna and Carlos Regia Pairfects. Worked on that mostly on the plane. Had a really lovely time. I've been working on these on when I'm walking Sherlock. I'm trying to get into walking and knitting a little bit more. So that's been a lot of fun. Just my socks that are on the needles. And then the final project that I'd like to show you is just a little update on my jelly roll blanket. So my jelly roll, I don't show it to you all the time, but I try to show it to you whenever I complete a strip. So I am doing a DK weight version of this blanket with fingering weight held double of mini skeins. A lot of them are mini skeins from when I had row 1, when I was a Homespun House Patreon. Leftovers that are less than 20 grams I throw in here. And so I have finished my 5th strip in August. And so I'm currently at 477 grams for this blanket. And let me show you. Da da da. Blankets are so hard to show, but I have started my 6th strip. I'm doing 16 stitches per strip and then DK weight held double, or fingering weight held double for a DK. I just have a 16-inch circular on a US 4 or a 3.5 millimeter needle. It's quite tall. When I hold it on the ground, it goes above my head. And so yeah, I have finished the 4th strip. The last strip I finished was in February. I finished the 5th strip in August. I was working on it a little bit more. Now that F1 season is happening, I kind of work on this during races or when I need something a little mindless. It lives downstairs in our TV room. And yeah, I just keep it in a basket here with fingering weight scraps. Yeah, that's my blanket. I'm at 477 grams total. What I do with this with my stash in and out is the month that I finish a strip, I count that gram usage out. So in August, the total blanket weighed 477 grams. The last strip I finished, it was at 373. So in total, that strip was 104 grams total. So that's kind of how I'm tracking it and kind of tracking my stash out as I go. And since this is all scraps, it's really helping use up some of my yardage. I have also decided with this that I'm only using colors that I like. For a while I was feeling like I just needed to use, if it was a mini skein in my stash, I needed to use it. But there are a lot of like pinks that are not my favorite, or just other colors that aren't my style. And so I've just decided if there are mini skeins that aren't my style, I'm just putting them aside. I'll put them in my gift bin or my giveaway bin. I can always give them to someone else that'll appreciate the colors a little bit more. And so yeah, that's my mindset with this. I'm only using colors that I like, because why should I use colors that I don't like? I'm really enjoying this. It's just been on my needles for a long time. It's gonna be on my needles for a long time, but it's something that I'm quite enjoying. My Ravelry project page says I started this in May of 24, which might be true. I finished 2 strips in February of 2025. So who knows? This might be on my needles for quite a long time, but I do get a slight satisfaction working a color, and then I'm like, oh, let me just get to finishing this color. So that is a slight motivator. And I do get more motivated as I get closer to ending a stripe or a strip, because then I'm like, oh, I'm almost done with this strip. Let me finish it. So it's definitely a good height so far. I have no idea how wide I'm going to make it, but I wanted to give a little update since I finished a strip. Who knows when you'll see it again. So yeah, that's my jelly roll blanket. And overall, those are all my works in progress and everything I've been working on. So really don't have much else to say here at the end. Just remember to, if you're participating in the summertime gifts knit along, make sure you share that on Instagram or in social media. Please like and subscribe this video. Let me know what you thought of this video. Give me a comment. I hope you're able to put a little bit of love in every stitch you're making today while we hang out. Thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your valuable time with me. It means so much, and I can't wait to see you guys again in a few weeks for my next episode.